Mike McGlinchey, Colton McKivitz, Taylor Lewan. What are the 49ers going to do this offseason at the offensive tackle position? One of the most important positions on the football team. Coming up on this edition of Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. Thanks to everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Offensive tackle, Croc. I got to say, it's probably one of, if not the most important position for the 49ers to figure out this offseason. And anytime you go into a new season, you hope that your team gets better on the offensive line and not worse. It's going to be really hard for the 49ers to get better on the offensive line with free agent center in Jake Brendel, but I want to focus a little bit more on the exterior, the tackle position with Mike McGlinchey, who is a free agent. And there's some interesting names on the free agent market. There's some players the 49ers have developed in-house as well that might be primed to take over the job. But first, let's start here with Mike McGlinchey. And Croc, what are your thoughts overall on Mike McGlinchey since he was a first-round pick for the 49ers in 2018?
I think if he was drafted in the third round, he'd be appreciated a lot more. At the right tackle position, he was a guy who, coming in, people knew that not a great pass protector, but tremendous in the running game. And I think, for the most part, he was pretty terrific in the running game. There were some mishaps here and there. I remember for the scouting academy, I had to watch offensive line. So I'm like, let me focus on Mike McGlinchey. So I watched him first game, and that year, I believe it was like after the 2019 season, and I watched him against, it was after the 2019 season. So I watched his first game against Tampa from 2019, and he was bad. He was bad, wasn't moving out in space very well. It wasn't great. But then they asked you to go back and watch a game from that same prospect later in the season. And I watched him against like the Seahawks and some other teams, and he was terrific. So this is a guy who had a kind of up and down career as a right tackle for the 49ers, but I think overall he's a guy that's going to demand a lot of money on the open market because he is a solid offensive tackle, and you could do a lot worse.
And everybody needs an offensive tackle, including the 49ers. I mean, you got to start 5 offensive linemen, and you can't pay all of them. So you've got to have some depth. You've got to have some cheap players. You got to have some tough, smart players that you can just count on to jump in and play when they're needed. And when it comes to paying, usually the money goes to the guys on the outside because of what it takes to block some of those edge players in the NFL. When it comes to Mike McGlinchey, to me, being an offensive tackle, because when you talk about a player who's maybe a better run blocker than a pass blocker, I think more of a guard. And so if you're paying a tackle, you're probably paying a tackle exorbitant amounts of money because he's a better pass blocker than a run blocker, or at least a great pass blocker, or maybe great at both like Trent Williams is, right? And you can't have 5 Trent Williams on your offensive line. Unfortunately, the 49ers are paying a tenth of the salary cap to just Trent Williams this year. I think he's got a $27 million cap hit. Lee in the chat says, Lewan only a left tackle. We'll get to Taylor Lewan here in a minute. I'll put a button in that one. But McGlinchey is a really good player, and I think somewhat underrated from 49ers fans because of the nature of some of his big misses are just, you're on an island, you're by yourself, it's a big third down, you give up a sack, and then you get up and run off the field and don't help up your quarterback, and everyone sees it, and everyone's, it gets replayed on social media, it gets replayed during the game, and it feels like he's probably a worse player than he actually is. And I think the 49ers really like him. They like his personality. He's good in the locker room, and so he's going to be a tough player to replace, maybe more difficult to replace than 49ers fans think. But in the end, I do think he's probably worth more money on the free agent market to another team that has a big needed offensive tackle, like, say, the Chicago Bears or, a number of teams.
I can see him in Chicago. He looks like a Bear.
Yeah, he's a Midwestern guy anyway, right? So I think it just kind of fits. And so in the end, I think he might end up walking because he's going to get more money. And the 49ers should offer him a contract, but they should draw a line in the sand, and they should say to themselves, look, well, we can go to $12 million. And we know you can get more than that, but can you come back for $12 million? And if he says, man, I got 15 out there, that's too far. I got to go take it. Then I understand. You give him your blessings and you let him walk. That's the way I see it with Mike McGlinchey. And I think it's more likely that he gets a whole bunch of money. But I also wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers really like Mike McGlinchey and find a way to fit him under the salary cap and bring him back.
It's kind of reminiscent of guys like Eric Armstead, right? Remember when they first kind of did the whole thing with Armstead, fifth-year option, brought him back, paid him. People were like, Eric Armstead. And obviously the year that they paid him, he came off a big year, a double-digit sack season. But prior to that, there were people questioning even picking up his fifth-year option. So do you think between him and Jimmy Ward, that's another one. Everybody loves Jimmy Ward now, but if you go back a few years, how the fans were speaking on Ward, he wasn't this hot name that I think he is now, right? A player that will be missed when he departs, or if he departs this offseason. I think McGlinchey kind of falls in that mode as well. Do you think that he potentially can get better? I mean, this was the first year off of a massive injury. It was like his hamstring was like torn off of the bone or something like that, and guys aren't supposed to really come back from that. And not only did he come back, I thought, especially down the stretch, he played some of his best football. So if you do re-sign him, or maybe how the 49ers see it, like, hey, we saw this guy play some big-time football down the stretch. We want to lock him up and pay him even more than a lot of people think that he'll get from this team.
LKV in the chat says he's from Philly.
Okay. Still looks like a Chicago Bear. But
he does. He just physically looks like a Chicago Bear. I thought, the Notre Dame thing threw me. That is Matt Ryan from Philly too? Because aren't Matt Ryan and Mike McGlinchey cousins?
I think I did hear that, huh?
By the way, if Matt Ryan's in the plans for the 49ers, he's about to be released just like Taylor Lewan was. We'll get to Taylor Lewan in a second, but maybe Mike will want to come back a block for his cuz. I don't know if that
he is from Pennsylvania, Matt Ryan.
So yeah, I don't think the Matt Ryan thing's super likely, but I just keep wanting to throw it out there because I don't know. It's fun. This is the off season. Let's have some fun in the off season, right?
Yeah.
Here's the
49er fans are a little tight, right? How can we get them to just loosen up a little bit, y'all?
And I feel like we do loosen up a little bit more on the lives, so I like that. So yeah. Come loose tonight. Here, it's Thursday night. We're getting close to the weekend, right? This is our send off for the weekend. This is our last podcast. It'll come up on your audio pods on Friday morning. But if you only listen maybe in your car to the audio pods, come over to the YouTube side occasionally and check us out and have a little fun at night with us, because it can be fun when we do the live shows. We like to, start and end the week with some live shows sometimes. I think one argument for keeping Mike McGlinchey, Croc, is that Trent Williams might not be around for that long. And then next year, you're trying to replace a left tackle after you just replaced a right tackle. That could start to get pretty difficult. So can they structure it in a way where, and maybe they've had some heart-to-hearts with Trent Williams, and they know that Trent Williams is going to last one more year or 2 more years before hanging it up. Could they structure it in a way where they could keep him around just for 1 more year together, or 2 more years together before maybe big money hits for Mike McGlinchey, and then they can figure out left tackle, and sort of they could have those tackles, those bookends solidified for a little bit longer, because that's probably the worry. And that's why, even though I think they have some needs at defensive tackle, some needs at defensive end, possibly corner, there's some needs on the San Francisco 49ers roster. But the reason offensive tackle could be number 1 is because not only McGlinchey, but in the very near future, they might have to replace Trent Williams. And it could be difficult to find 1 starting offensive tackle, let alone 2.
I mean, shoot, they're struggling to find legit starting offensive interior players, right? And they're trying to see, and you hope that guys like Spencer Burford continues to grow. He had kind of this weird dynamic with Daniel Brunskill this year. You kind of patching things up at the center position. So add tackle to that, and you got some big time problems right now. They're holding together right now by a thread.
So if not Mike McGlinchey, what other options are out there? Recently released Taylor Lewan is now out there on the open market. What about some options in-house, some other names in free agency? Maybe the 49ers go to the draft as well, coming up on this edition of Locked On 49ers. How about Built Bar? Oh, man, I'm doing so good, Croc. You'd be proud of me. You can't tell because all you ever see is my face and my shoulders every day. But I'm down at least 5 pounds
Let's
this month,
go.
maybe since the start of the year. Might be closer to 10. I don't know. I've been hitting it hard at the gym. I've been eating better. And part of eating better is high protein, low calorie, low sugar. And that's what you're getting in Built Bars. I'm not snacking. I'm not reaching for the chips. I've never been a big candy bar guy. Haven't been drinking this month either, which is pretty key. But if you're looking for that delicious treat and you don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. And if you are on a fitness journey, Built Bars can absolutely help. What makes them so good? Well, for starters, you feel like you're getting a treat, even though healthy is actually tasty with Built Bar, because you're getting most Built Bars covered in 100% real chocolate. Flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. New flavors showing up.
New flavor.
The new flavors?
I did. I saw one of them at least. And I'm not going to lie. I got excited. I'm definitely ordering a box of those. Do you want to tell everybody what the new flavor is?
Well, I know Croc is a Built Puff guy.
I am.
The marshmallowy version of the Built Bars. I'm more of the old-fashioned Built Bar guy. But they've got animal cookie flavor Built Bars, and then they've got maple donut puff flavor that I know
that's the one
is salivating over.
That's the one. Yeah. I was expecting a little maple bacon, but okay, you don't got the bacon, that's fine. I'll take the maple donut though.
Oh, dude, I bet they come with the maple bacon if the maple donut is a hit. I would not be shocked by that one at all. But the crazy thing about Built Bars, all these amazing flavors, and most Built Bars have only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. You can go to Built.com and find any of the flavors and varieties of Built Bars, but you can also find them on your store shelves now as well. Walmart and your local Sam's Club. Get the 4-box at Walmart or the 13-bar boxes of hit flavors at Sam's Club, and then thank us later. And, of course, you can get all the flavors at Built.com. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. Make sure you're subscribed up everywhere to not only Locked On 49ers, but Locked On NFL Draft. The network has so much to offer, all of your favorite teams and all of your favorite sports. And, of course, subscribe to the brand new YouTube channel for Peacock and Williamson, youtube.com/@Peacock and Williamson, taking you every day through the offseason. Okay. What are your thoughts on Taylor Lewan, recently released by the Tennessee Titans? Croc. He's a big name, and this is always, we get inundated with, as soon as a big name is out there, Croc, Peacock, Taylor Lewan. What do you think? Is Taylor Lewan the next 49er if Mike McGlinchey walks?
All right, so I just got tagged in this post on Twitter, and Will Compton, obviously he's on Bussin' with the Boys with Taylor Lewan. Awesome podcast. I've listened to several episodes of it. Great personalities. But Will Compton said, I'm sure you'll be fielding calls from 31 other teams. Taylor Lewan went on to say, 30. 49ers got themselves a left tackle. They got themselves a stud at left tackle. So I don't know if that lays the rest of 49ers. He specifically mentioned the Niners, but I will say this. Aside from this, I don't know how recently he has kind of put out there. I heard about a few years ago, he said, well, I'm a left tackle. Like, I don't play right tackle. And I've heard that kind of being circling since he was released. But you never know. Yeah, you're a left tackle until you're not. I just watched Tyron Smith, right? Dallas Cowboy, great. One of the best tackles of our generation. Not better than this guy that's on the 49ers right now, Trent Williams. But Tyron Smith, really good, right? Well, in a pinch last year, he played most of the season at what position? Right tackle. He never played right tackle. He was always a left tackle, one of the best left tackles in the league. And he moved over to that right side. So, and that was the first time in his career. So I don't know if Taylor Lewan would be willing to do that, but you want to go to a winning organization, you want to go to a winning team, and you know a team that's going to be there regardless of what's going on, and they could really use your help. I mean, Taylor Lewan, why not? Why not go and play that right tackle spot? And I mean, that's two badass guys on that offensive line. Trent Williams, Taylor Lewan. I like his attitude. I love the way he carries himself. So he fits in. He fits in with the 49ers. I would hope that he reconsider that right tackle position.
Yeah, and that's not to say he wouldn't want to play for the 49ers organization. That's saying they got the best left tackle in the league, and he's saying he's a left tackle. Look, Croc, and Taylor Lewan's been a really good player in this league, but he was released for a reason. there's a chance that Taylor Lewan's a better podcaster than he is an NFL offensive tackle right now. You know what I mean?
He's been hurt. He's been hurt a lot.
That's the reality of the situation. And I know his boy Will Compton's got his back and saying there's 31 teams they're going to call. 31 teams aren't going to call Taylor Lewan to play left tackle. And definitely the 49ers aren't going to call Taylor Lewan if he's not willing to switch over to the right side. You know what I mean? And I don't know what his demands would be in free agency, but, clearly if he doesn't want to play right tackle, it's a non-starter for the 49ers, but he would have to take significantly less also. He would have to take less money than you would have paid Mike McGlinchey to come play for the 49ers, in my opinion, because the last thing the 49ers need is another often injured player. Yeah. The 49ers can't bring in a guy who's only played half his games since he signed this huge contract in 2018. He tore his ACL in 2020. He only played 5 games because of lingering knee issues that were, I think, related and maybe unrelated as well to the ACL from the year before. And then he only started 2 games last year in 2022. So he's just been completely unavailable. And the 49ers have enough of that going on with unavailable players and injured players. So to be honest with you, there might be a team out there that's willing to pay Taylor Lewan a nice chunk and willing to just plug him in at the left tackle spot. But, if he doesn't want to play right tackle, and all the injury history, and he probably thinks of himself as a guy who's going to make a lot of money, right? I just think it's a terrible fit for the 49ers. I think there's about 0% chance that Taylor Lewan comes and joins the San Francisco 49ers.
Do you think this is one of those things where the name is bigger than the play?
It happens so fast in the NFL, right, Croc? Because there's guys where their name, and it's like, he's just not the guy. He's not that guy anymore. When you close your eyes,
guy.
Yeah, you're not that guy, pal. When you close your eyes and picture Taylor Lewan, I'm sure he still feels that way. And there might be stretches. Maybe he was that guy for 2 games that he started last year, right? But you can't expect to get that guy for 17 games if you sign him right now. That's just the nature of the NFL. Bobby Wagner got released today by the Los Angeles Rams. Is Bobby Wagner still that guy? Should the 49ers go make a call for Bobby Wagner?
Right, so he's just a name, right?
Or is he just a name, right? And to be honest with you, from what I've seen of them most recently, I would say that Bobby Wagner probably has a little more in the tank than Taylor Lewan does, and mostly it's just because of the injuries. You get old, you get in your 30s, you start getting hurt. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough, even for a tough guy. So it's a big no for me on Taylor Lewan, and it sounds like it's a big no from Taylor Lewan because he's a left tackle only in his eyes. And we'll see if that changes throughout the offseason if not enough teams are calling and willing to give him an offer to play left tackle for them.
So you would say no. You lose McGlinchey, right? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, McGlinchey is off the table. I guess the question comes down to Lewan, if he's willing to play, right? And it's not this huge, he doesn't have this huge demand on the market, so he doesn't cost a whole lot of money. And Colton McKivitz,
that might be your answer. That might be your week 1 penciled in answer is Colton McKivitz, former 5th round pick from the San Francisco 49ers. Would not be the only 5th round pick to be starting for the 49ers next year if that was the case. And the question with McKivitz is not is he as good as Taylor Lewan? Is he as good as Caleb McGarry, who's on the free agent market, who might get a similar contract to what McGlinchey's going to get anyway, or if he's as good as Mike McGlinchey? The question with Colton McKivitz is the difference between Colton McKivitz and Mike McGlinchey $15 million. That's the question.
Who were the starting tackles when the 49ers played the Houston Texans in that preseason game? I know it was like Jalen Moore on the left side. Who's that right tackle?
It probably was. If Moore was on the left side, then McKivitz was on the right side.
Then I want no parts of McKivitz. That was a disaster.
Preseason against the Texans this year?
Yeah, Trey Lance playing quarterback, running for his life the whole time. Just guys just coming in unblocked. I was like, who are these guys? It was some of the worst offensive line play I've ever seen.
That's been erased from my memory. I don't remember that game at all. I can't even recall who was in there and who was playing what. Yeah, I know Colton McKivitz played important games down the stretch last year for the 49ers in place of Trent Williams at left tackle.
Okay, maybe he plays better with a better supporting cast, because whatever I saw against the Texans, it was definitely not ideal. It was not ideal. He was at right tackle, and Moore was at left tackle.
I don't know for sure if it was McGlinchey, but
McKivitz.
Or McKivitz, I'm sorry. I get the mix confused there with the McGlinchey and the McKivitz.
Who else would it be?
I don't know. Maybe was it McGlinchey? Was it McGlinchey for sure?
It was not McGlinchey.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, very likely it was McGlinchey. Anybody else, if they remember that game, let us know. So next, I want to talk about the options. There's some other players on the free agent market. We want to mention some names there. I want to talk about the in-house options and then what that would actually look like if we played it out with some of the in-house options and what that would look like on the 49ers roster. And even if you got worse at right tackle, can you get better somewhere else instead?
Right.
So we'll get to that next. I do want to thank everybody once again for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every stinking day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And make sure you are subscribed up to the new Peacock and Williamson podcast YouTube page that you can find at youtube.com/@Peacock and Williamson. And today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. It is a super fun and super realistic game world. A mobile app, Ultimate Football GM, is completely free and playable offline, play on the go, and as you want to and when you want to. And if you've ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM, this is the game for you. Managing your football franchise from top to bottom. You can put your franchise in whatever city you want. You can name them whatever you want. You can run whatever scheme you want. It's all about how you run your team from top to bottom and build yourself a dynasty on Ultimate Football GM. Hire the right coaches and coordinators. Trade away and trade for players. Navigate your franchise through free agency, of course, the NFL draft, and all the ups and downs of a season. And we've created a Locked On League for you to compete against Locked On fans all over the world. Ultimate Football GM, can you beat the other fans out there? Choose the Locked On, one word, all caps, Locked On League in the app to join, and you can create your own football dynasty and take on some of the hosts and, of course, a lot of fans out there on the Locked On Podcast Network. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM, start your dynasty today. Caleb McGarry is an interesting name. He had his best season in his walk year for the Atlanta Falcons. He is a free agent right now. He's a late first-round pick. But his profile is so similar to McGlinchey's. I don't know why the 49ers would let McGlinchey walk and then pay Caleb McGarry probably a very similar salary for a very similar style of player and pay pretty much the same amount of money. You might be saving $1 million. And if you really know and you really love McGlinchey already, to me, Caleb McGarry's probably not the right fit either, unless McGarry was willing to come to the 49ers and McGlinchey for some reason gets an astronomical number that's a lot more and wants to go play somewhere else. That would be really the only scenario I see someone like Caleb McGarry. Juwan Taylor. Thank you, LKV in the chat. Juwan Taylor might be a little too expensive as well, as LKV says. But he was supposed to be a first-round pick, kind of fell in the draft. Was that the same class, 28? No, that was the year after 2019. It must have been because he was a second-round pick. High second-round pick from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He wasn't great, but I have a feeling the Jaguars are going to make a pretty strong push to keep him around. But again, these are starting offensive tackles in the NFL. You're going to pay $12+ million for them. So if you're paying $12+ million for a free agent tackle, you might as well bring your own guy back. And so to me, it's like you pay McGlinchey or you go cheap at tackle and hope your guys that you developed in-house can play, whether it's Jalen Moore, let him compete. Colton McKivitz sounds like the guy would be the first man up there at right tackle for the 49ers. And you go back into the draft and maybe you get another fifth rounder. You know, you got 3 late third-round picks. You draft some guys there. And the other name that we haven't really talked about yet, Croc, is bumping Spencer Burford out from right guard to right tackle.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that. And again, I've seen some people shoot it down like, oh, that'll never happen. But I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of times where a guy is drafted to play you have these big like long-term plans of him playing tackle, but you come in, hey, let's play this guy at guard. He's a talented offensive lineman. He can move well. And then once that opening happens at tackle, which maybe the 49ers foresaw this situation coming, all right, let's kick him outside. So if that's something that happened, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Hella 49ers says, move Armstead to right tackle. He ain't getting any sacks anyway. That's disrespect.
He got 0 sacks last year.
He's
That is
built
kind of
like
wild.
he's built similar to McGlinchey.
Yeah,
Tall,
he's lighter
long.
though. He's like 290. Well, yeah, we don't know how much McGlinchey really weighs.
I don't
So.
think McGlinchey weighs that much. I'm sure an off season of gaining weight for Eric Armstead, and he can get up to at least the high 290s, right? So he's too athletic. The athletic guys end up playing the defensive line, but someone like Armstead, the way he's built, if he started playing offensive tackle in college, he could have made himself a lot of money, maybe even more money. Oh, he's making like $20 million, so never mind.
I think he was an offensive lineman in high school as well. Well, obviously, I mean, you're the biggest guy on the field.
Yeah, when you're that big, you're probably playing some offensive line as well. 3rd round pick would end up a red shirt. 49ers started a 4th rounder all year last year.
Right. They're really weird with how they do it. Again, I think it's just you are either ready or you just are not seeing the field. And it doesn't feel like there's much in between. But, I mean, shoot, Spencer Burford, it was like right away. All right, go ahead. Boom, we're going to plug you right in. You take every right guard snap.
And here's the thing for Burford. So he played left tackle. I think he played some guard earlier on in his career at UTSA. Yeah. But he played left tackle. And then he's already done the flip footwork-wise and played a whole season of right guard. So I don't think it would be that difficult for him to play tackle again, but bump out to right tackle. And if he's your most talented guy, I want my most talented guy at tackle. Even if he's not the most perfect prototype, 6'6" dude. He's got long enough arms. I think he could do it. And then you've got then it's a lot easier to fill your right guard spot. You've got Daniel Brunskill, and who knows, Daniel Brunskill is a name that could be involved too. So when you consider Burford, Brunskill, McKivitz, Jalen Moore, a 3rd round draft pick, let the battle royal, let the best man win. You got to be able to find at least a semblance of a starting tackle with that group, right, Croc? That's my thinking, and going a lot cheaper there. And then maybe try to develop your future left tackle as well. Maybe the big expenditure in the 2024 offseason is an offensive tackle who eventually takes over for Trent Williams. And who knows, maybe he plays right tackle first, then moves to the left side or whatever it is. I think the 49ers can do it. And if you're going to let McGlinchey walk, I think the way to play it is to go cheap at right tackle. And I'll put it to you this way, Croc. Would you rather pay, let's say it's a 1-year deal. It's a 1-year proposition. You pay Mike McGlinchey or you pay Emmanuel Mosley?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll go with McGlinchey.
Ooh, I would pick Mosley, I think.
Would you? I just offensive line. It's much harder to mask deficiencies on the O-line. And even with him getting kind of bullied a player here, in the game, he does a lot in the run game. He moves extremely well. Your offense, especially in the run game, will run efficiently with him out there, like the way that Kyle sees fit. Whereas cornerback, I mean, we've seen them throw Josh Norman out there and still have a top 6 pass defense in the league. Not saying it was like great, but like they've proven that they can get by. So, I mean, they proved it last year with Diamondre Lenoir playing most of the season.
Yeah.
But offensive line, I think that'll be like that's tough. And I see David, he says Emmanuel was better than Ward. Mosley he was playing extremely well. But again, it's harder to mask that as just a bad offensive lineman.
Yeah, if you have a swinging gait, you open yourself up to the possibility that it turns out really bad, and you don't have an offensive tackle that's worth a crap, and that's bad, and that's especially bad if you got 2 young quarterbacks over there.
Yeah.
So the big question here that we don't quite know is, how do the 49ers feel about Colton McKivitz internally? How do they feel about Jalen Moore? And I think they've kind of told us a little bit. They probably think of a little higher of McKivitz than they do Moore. And do they think that's a $12-15 million difference between one of those guys and McGlinchey? And then they can go back to the drawing board maybe the next offseason and see what they have with some draft and develop guys. And or do they think that Spencer Burford's a guy that could move out to tackle too? So, and Daniel Brunskill. Look, Daniel Brunskill plays some really good reps at tackle in his 49ers.
I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
There was a time, and maybe I jumped the gun on this. There was a time where I thought, Joe Staley's retiring. It's okay because Daniel Brunskill can play left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, that's how good he played for a stretch when he was playing left tackle. When who was he splitting time with?
This past year, Spencer Burford.
No. Back in the day. So when Joe Staley got hurt,
School.
Justin School. So Justin School was got the first shot at left tackle. It was like, that's not great. And then Brunskill got into action there. It was like Brunskill's holding his own out there. Who is this guy?
Well, this is what happened. They had drafted School. They had Brunskill. One of the tackles, I don't remember exactly which one, got hurt first, but at one point, both Staley and McGlinchey were both out.
Yeah.
So School was the guy that played on the left side.
Yes.
And Brunskill played on the right side. Well, McGlinchey came back. So Brunskill went to the bench and they kept that same guy at left tackle, which was School. School started to get destroyed. I think it was by the Green Bay Packers. And they're like, heck no. Brunskill, go in there, get him. And then he played very well.
Yeah. That's exactly how it went down. So in-house, you got some options. Does iron sharpen iron, and you can replace, at least for a season, Mike McGlinchey, and then go back to the drawing board? That's a big question with the San Francisco 49ers. I have a feeling that's the way they're going to go. I think that's probably the way I would go, as much as I think offensive line is so important and offensive tackles are so important. I'm not sure if there's a $15 million difference between McKivitz or Brunskill or Burford at right tackle versus Mike McGlinchey. And that means you can keep Emmanuel Moseley. And Emmanuel Moseley, I think, is going to come back on probably a 1-year deal with the torn ACL. And that allows you to do something there, because I don't know if he's going to find the deal he wants on the open market as a free agent, but he could come back for 1 more year, get a nice little payday for 1 year, then hit the free agent market healthy next year and get that Charvarius Ward payday potentially for Emmanuel Moseley. Right. It seems like that'd be a logical way for both parties to play that. You could pay for $15 million, let's say that's what McGlinchey ends up getting, $15 million per year. The 49ers have so many free agents. You could pay Amenahu, and you could pay Tashawn Gibson, and you probably couldn't fit Moseley into that, but you could keep 3 or 4 free agents by letting McGlinchey walk if you're that up against it, and we'll see what the cap numbers are. But the 49ers can probably finagle it to bring McGlinchey back too. They just can't go crazy. They can't go to a bidding war with Mike McGlinchey, I think is the best way to put it in the open market. You got to pick a number, and if his number's getting crazy with some other teams, then you gotta just let him go, I think. But
like you said, you risk Trent Williams retiring the following year, and then all of a sudden you have and you don't know what you're getting at right tackle, and then now you're really in a pinch. And then what you're gonna do is just go pay some other overpriced tackle on the free agent market. I guess by then you get a first round draft pick, but even then the guys, I mean, they're going high.
Right. Yeah. And the 49ers aren't picking until 99. So if they,
I'm saying like next year, like even like if you let it play out this year, where this year you have Trent Williams and whoever the heck you have at right tackle, all right, and you play out this year, then Trent Williams is like, all right, like my body's beat up, I'm tired, I'm gonna retire. And it's like, well, you already let McGlinchey walk. Now you let Trent Williams walk. Now you have 2 guys that you potentially have to replace, depending on how McGlinchey's replacement did. And even if you want to do it in the draft, well, by then 49ers will have a first round pick, but you're not going to be high enough to get the premier tackles.
Yeah. Hard to get a premier tackle at 32.
I like how you said that, 32.
But you got Brunskill.
But you have Brunskill.
You just keep bringing back Brunskill, dude. Throw in the left tackle. You get that's your bookends long term. Brunskill, McKivitz. Let's go.
He's like Michael Myers.
Yeah. It's tough. And that's why I think the 49ers will probably go like a very raw small school probably is what they'll have to do. Traitsy guy in the draft this year that does kind of redshirt and see if he's someone who could be a starting caliber offensive tackle for you in 2024.
Where's Trent Brown at these days?
He's back with the Patriots.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the very least, he's gonna pass protect.
Yeah, he's the opposite. He's the bizarro Mike McGlinchey, where he can't move, get out on the run and stuff, but he's just, you have to orbit him. He's so big and so tall that it takes too long to get around him to get to the quarterback. So he's a really big pass protector. Yeah. And it's funny that Kyle saw him in the offense. Is like, nope, we got to get rid of him and get myself a better run blocking offensive tackle like Mike McGlinchey. So he's well thought of. I would not be shocked either way with McGlinchey if he walks or if the 49ers do bring him back. But if the 49ers pay big for an offensive tackle in free agency, it's going to be a lot harder to do a lot of the other things that they might want to do on the roster. So we'll see. It's an interesting one, but it's such an important position too. I could see it. I could absolutely see it both ways.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun offseason. Somebody earlier said, Matt Ryan. I thought you said fun. Yeah. I mean, look, it's fun for me. It's fun for me to watch the chat squirm sometimes when you bring up names too. Yeah. I love that. Would you say yes or no to Bobby Wagner real quick before we go?
Nah. No, that's a no. Look at the starting linebackers for the 49ers and who they've had over the last however many years. I think the production has been tremendous with Greenlaw and Fred Warner. So
they absolutely don't need him. But
I'd sign Azeez Al-Shaair before I sign Bobby Wagner.
Oh, wow. Well, it depends on the money. If Bobby's getting this huge deal, then obviously that's out of the question. But it'd be fun to watch Bobby Wagner and Warner next to each other. That'd be pretty fun.
Who gets 54? Warner keeps that, right?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. But it's not happening anyway. Wagner going to be, maybe Wagner and Al-Shaair be teammates in Houston.
I can see that. They drafted a linebacker too, I think, out of Alabama this past year. Hey, listen, I know you lost your defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, but they had some really good young talent, man. Jalen Petrie, can't wait to see him with D'Amico Ryans. Yeah. If they draft a defensive line, likely, I think everybody thinks they go quarterback. I'm always a little timid of first-year head coaches going quarterback. If you see the guy, right, like Bryce Young, he's just sitting there and you're just like, man, I really like him. Or CJ Stroud, man, I really like him. Then, I guess pull the trigger. But if you went Anderson, I don't think I'd be upset by that. And you place him with Derek Stingley at cornerback, who you just got. And you got a sweet running back, Pierce, in the backfield. Man, there's some Mechie comes back, and he had his knee and then obviously the cancer. But, there's some things there with a lot of money. There's some things there.
It's a really interesting job there that D'Amico Ryans took. Oh, here we go. What if some of that Mike McGlinchey money goes to Jalen Ramsey, Croc? Jalen Ramsey looking like he might get cut as well. A Boogie says, Jalen Ramsey to the Bay. If you can't beat him, join him.
I ain't turning down Jalen Ramsey.
That would be a wild twist of the offseason. Talk about having fun. Jalen Ramsey all of a sudden on the San Francisco 49ers. Now that would be very interesting and very fun. And they might have to squash some beefs inside of the locker room before they get going in the season with that one. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe up, tell a friend, let them know their team is covered right here on the network, and make sure you hit up the new Peacock and Williamson YouTube channel and subscribe there. Hit the like buttons, hit the bells and all that stuff. And Croc and I will be back Monday right here, Locked On 49ers.